Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. Oh my gosh. And there's no snow. Oh my gosh. So yeah, last night or this morning or last night, this morning, when I can't sleep like around 2:46 in the morning and I can't sleep and I go pee, I'm like, okay, I need to listen to something on YouTube. And sometimes I'll listen to valuetainment with Patrick Bet David, really good YouTube channel. You guys should check it out, as well as PBS Frontline or PBS NewsHour. Frontline is actually really good because they know that they're up against an information war. And I know it sounds like an Alex Jones, but really it truly is an information war out there. And it's not going to be so much like, bombs flying back and forth. I mean, yeah, it's happening in really like parts of the world, but not so much in the West. It's going to be about destabilizing, destabilizing countries that are relatively, like they say, stable, like the West. Okay. And like, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, watching that front line, okay, and what they had to deal with as far as the elections, what they had to deal with as far as the conspiracy people, the anti-government people, the people, the activists that think that the government's trying to kill them and all this stuff, and think that the Dr. Phil and whatever is like the Illuminati, and it's just some crazy ass stories. I'm like, this never came out when, obviously prior to the internet, but it seems within the last like 10, 15 years, as soon as like Alex Jones came on the scene, and then even some other ones. I mean, I've heard of the, I forget his name, but he always says like the Queen, the Britain overseas and rules America and all this other stuff. And they're spinning the whole NATO thing. They're spinning allies and saying that, oh yeah, the allies, the Britain and the UK is like, America is just another colony of Britain, all that stuff. So yeah, there are some political parties that still buy into the fact that we haven't really created independence and whatever. But but that was just like something that someone gave me a flyer to. I went with my mom, and that was like back in like 1991, 92, 93. But really, these really intense campaigns, the conspiracy people, the anti-government people, are hitting it so hard. And I actually fed into that too, because when they were mentioning that, yeah, when you have a declining population that is aging, full of cancer and disease and chronic illness, they are going to be highly emotional and highly influential. Like, they'll be easily influenced. And I would say that's true because I experienced it. I'm no different than those people out there that are still playing into the conspiracies and the anti-vax and the pro-vax and the anti-government and all that stuff. So I know exactly what Frontline was saying, that they were up against a major info war. And so so the fact that they have these face or YouTube channels to give a different side, so you're not believing all of what. Now here's the thing, this makes sense. Putin comes up again, okay? The Russian KGB type of stuff comes up again, because there are countries that aren't strong enough to go against NATO, the North American Treaty Organization, okay? We have already set these, allies and NATO say that if you mess with any one of the people that belong to NATO, all of us are going to come after you. So Russia is not going to want to do that. I don't think China would either. I mean, I think people posture. So how do you go and infiltrate in a way where you're not throwing guns? You get into the hearts and minds of the people. And that's exactly what I experienced myself. I ended up hating my government. And I'm like, I'm going to come here to America, given an opportunity. I could have died in Vietnam. And for about 3 or 4 years or 5 years, I ended up hating my own government, my own country, completely just creating the division, scaring the shit out of everybody with all of my fears and my conspiracies. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm watching people who are still buying into that, doing the same thing to their people. And I'm like, wow. Was I such a victim to such propaganda? And even during the beginning of the protocol, I was still buying into the fear. I was still playing the, oh my God, that's poisonous. Oh my God, they're going to do this. Oh my God, the government's trying to kill you, all this other stuff. And it took drinking my juice, peeling back layer after layer of trauma, just flushing it down the toilet, getting rid of it to where I can actually think from a very logical perspective. And that's why systematically over time, I have been completely changing my politics, because those politics about anti-government and conspiracy world do not hold water anymore. Not because, believe me, if the government wanted to kill you, you'd all be dead. You wouldn't be around to bitch about it. Okay? Just like if Jillian was really going to kill you, you'd be dead. You wouldn't be on freaking Dr. Phil talking about how Jillian gave you a stroke. Okay? So you got to realize that some of these crazy ass fears that you all are putting out there in the world is like obviously it's a projection of within, but it's also causing the chaos that you say you're so against. Okay? And so you guys got to go to YouTube. Those of you who are Americans, those of you who are still in the conspiracy world, think that the government is reptilian and you're ruled by Arcturians and reptilians and Archons and all this other stuff. And, you know, now as far as Trump and Ukraine and Russia, I have no idea. I love our American president. We always have to be careful of infiltrators that come into the two parties. Yes, you know, Putin and his people did totally do a campaign against Hillary Clinton, and everyone thinks that Epstein didn't kill himself, and that's another sign of people falling for the propaganda. And yes, I am friends with some of the big guys out there that are still perpetrating the anti-government. Okay, I'm not going to call them out because I'm not, but those are the guys that have been huge. They travel around and they talk about how America is so horrible and governments are so horrible, but yet they're walking around free speech and they're able to get into their car, get on a freaking plane, come to America and bitch about it. And they have that freedom of movement, but yet they're talking smack. Makes you wonder who actually pays them. Makes you wonder who's funding their campaigns and all that. Now, I understand that it's not like anyone really funds them as far, you know, as far as their, it's the fact that they are targeting really, really weak people who don't have any answer for their own life. And so it's easier to glom onto somebody that has, that can give you the answer of who to blame for all of their issues. Because let me tell you, when you actually give people what they ask for, they want like no government and they want no infrastructure, no money, only crypto, then you know what, put them in Liberia with no infrastructure, no justice system, no police force, no education, and we'll see how long these waspy males will last in a place like Liberia. Oh no, they'll be like, oh, we'll create our own little commune. And then you got to put in the same measures we put in today to make an infrastructure, because you can't control those that have major imbalances. Believe me, we wouldn't have police, we wouldn't have government if we didn't have to deal with people with different biochemistries harming other people. The reason why I was vetted out so profusely by my government, because they know that there are cult leaders out there that harm people. Okay, so you think that a society that is so diverse in their biochemistry on a death trajectory is going to be okay without law enforcement or without government, without some kind of infrastructure? Oh, hell no. But these guys don't think further than their freaking dicks. Okay, and I hate to say it, but it's so true. They can't think further than their whatever. And I'm watching them going like, Jesus Christ. You know, but what are you going to do? You can't tell them this. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're just brainwashed. Oh, you sold out to the mainstream. And so I don't even bother really trying to get my point across, because it's like talking to a wall. It's like, you know, you don't try to ram your thought process on someone else's wall down their throat, because they'll just easily block you, or they'll just say you're stupid and try to embarrass you, which, I mean, I'm okay with that. But, you know, it's good to see what society is still buying into, so you know how to then give information to counter it. No different than the American government. They're not going to just try to stop you from talking because we have freedom of speech, but they'll put out other campaigns to then counter what people are saying, so people get both sides of it, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense, this guy's an idiot. this guy's okay. Okay. So that was a big revelation. And I'm just like going, oh my God, you know, I'm so sorry, American government. I'm so sorry, America, that I bought into that. I'm so ashamed of myself. You know, I came here, I was adopted, and I came here, I was naturalized in 80 or 70 something. Okay, my parents worked their ass off to make me stay here because they did want to send everybody back because they thought we were stolen. But my mom was going to take me to Canada if that ever came down, but it never happened. So there are people that worked hard for me to be here, to even have innovation. And for me to go and just say, screw America, like 3 or 4, 5 or 6 years ago, that's completely uncalled for. And believe me, I'm so sorry. I really am. Okay. And how, and could I justify it? Yeah. I mean, I could say, I was dealing with sickness that nobody can help me with. And I'm degrading as we speak. And I have no control over my emotions. And nobody can give me an answer, and everything's so damn expensive. And, you know, I mean, so what do you do? What do people do when they just, when biotech can't give them an answer? Because then you look at like Goldman Sachs, there's one article we're saying that Goldman Sachs was saying that biotech, you know, won't give you the cure because it would, you know, it would impact their revenue. And I'm like, or it won't give you, yeah, it won't give you the cures. I'm like, biotech creates cures every single day. They don't know how to heal you indefinitely because they don't know how to reverse the aging process. If they could, we wouldn't be dying, and we wouldn't be reproducing either. We would have the same set of people on this earth day after day after day. We wouldn't even be where we are today. We wouldn't have biotech if we could actually live indefinitely. And so biotech has no idea how to heal you indefinitely. All they know how to do is give you the latest and greatest until your body adapts to it. The pain returns because the body wants to live, and then they're off to another cure search. And this is where all the foundations come into play, because they got to go and reconfigure another conglomeration of elements to then upset the homeostasis, stop the pain for a minute, stop whatever symptom you have for a minute, allow you to walk for a minute until there are the side effects, until you actually see then what the body will do when it has new stem cells or it's reacting to new procedures. That is connected to everything. And so that's all biotech is good for. They're great for stays of execution, but the gap between life and death with these stays of execution called cures is becoming narrower and narrower and narrower. Okay. So, you know, it's not that biotech is keeping anything from anybody. It's just that bodies are that bad. They're not able to handle the latest cures. Okay. So, you know, so Goldman, you know, they're not exactly, I mean, they're a corporation that also sensationalizes, and then they feed into the fears of people. And this is how also money gets passed around. You know, that's why the bear market, the bull market, because it's all about emotions. Okay. So, yeah, so then I was thinking about, like, I've been watching like a lot of different ghost shows, and I don't know why I'm so fascinated with ghosts and with the death side, and not because I'm projecting it, because here's the thing, death and the dying process is so foreign to people until they actually experience it. So those of you that are in the prime of your life and you're young, or you're relatively healthy and you're doing all your exercises and whatever, you're not thinking about death really. You're not thinking about what actually happens on a biological level, what happens with death. You just kind of accept it. You know, it happens to somebody else, and maybe one day it's going to happen to you because you still believe in that. And so, you're just like, I don't know, you just don't think about it until you start then getting diagnosed, and then you start getting to the activism trying to blame, right? And then people end up in the hospitals, and then they're on that end of life type of thing. But I've been so interested in it because I want to understand how a person dies, and what are the little thingies that happen at the end. We're like, oh yeah, people die from cancer. No, you don't die from cancer. People die from all these different diseases. No, you don't die from any disease. That's just the body trying to adapt to new conditions. Okay. And so this is what I kind of, you know, think about when I'm watching all these ghost shows. I'm like, oh my God, this is like Jerry Springer. I mean, it's kind of scary because they make it into like a scary thing. But watching these ghost shows is like the Jerry Springer of the afterlife, because you're dealing with extreme imbalances in the afterlife that actually are able to make a mark in the physical life. And so that's why I'm so, because you're really, you're hearing a story about somebody, about a current person's life, and then a person who is also in the afterlife still looping, and how those two worlds merge. And it's fascinating. Okay. And so I'd rather watch the ghost shows, which is like, you know, the Jerry Springer of the physical life and the afterlife, versus watching people today just completely mess up their relationships and their life for their 15 minutes. And I'm saying, hey, look, I was on Dr. Phil, so you could say that I was a bit imbalanced back then, but I still had ideas. But those ideas definitely came out in emotion, because that's where I came from, was major emotion, like everybody else, when you're still trying to figure out your disease and your cancer and all that. So yeah, I mean, I could say from experience that those that have major imbalances will end up, that are so like prominent and so obvious, will end up on TV, literally, in either the afterlife as well as the physical life. So Jerry Springer and Dr. Phil versus Zach Bagan, or all these different haunting shows on the Travel Channel, right? Okay, so anyways, that's my justification to watch daytime TV, is I'm watching the drama and the soap opera of the afterlife and the physical life merging together, which is still very interesting because it's about people's lives and what they are dealing with. And then you can get a clue on the patterns of why they end up dying. And then you can see, okay, well, when you have somebody that has been haunted in their whole life by just so much trauma and drama and physical issues and just abuse and all of that, and then it carries over into their kids, and then they end up, you know, then they get haunted by their spirits, and they're so messed up. Yeah, you're seeing now that there is definitely a correlation with unresolved trauma looping and looping and looping, and then you have the therapies that go and try to redirect, but it never heals. And that's what the whole, you know, ghost things are. The mediums, they try to redirect the energy of the ghost to get them away from you to go to somebody else. Okay, but it doesn't really actually get healed. So that's the same thing in our physical life, is that we have so much trauma, you know, compound trauma from every generation, from every single thing in our, even our current life, as well as our, you know, our parents' life that passed on those genetics to you. It's just all the different therapies have redirected that trauma, but never healed it. So it's like I was saying, like in a picture, it's like all that trauma, it's like you scribble around, but there is no beginning, because you can't even see where the beginning is, but there definitely is an ending. Okay. And so, so anyways, so that's, so the thing with the afterlife, you know, those that end up, you know, those that end up really going for the afterlife, you know, depends on how aggressive and how imbalanced you are, and you may end up on a ghost show, or in your physical life, end up on a talk show. Okay, so the whole thing, the difference between heart disease versus heart failure and strokes. Okay, because there's, you know, there's an actual, something like, how many people die from heart attacks, like sudden cardiac arrest, or what's the percentage? Well, 95% die from heart or sudden cardiac arrest, you know, sudden cardiac, you know, failure, or what is it, death. And so that means that there was always, there's been an obvious chain reaction of events, okay, that then led up to then the heart stopping or blood not getting to the brain, so you die from a stroke. So heart disease, 610,000 people die from that every single year in the US. Well, then you have 95% of the people die from a heart attack. Well, what's the other 5%? It could be a stroke. Because really, it's not the disease as far as cancer, disease, chronic illness, aging, autoimmunity. What is it? Yeah, the cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and aging, autoimmunity, and missing limbs and organs is not what you die from, okay? That just tells you your malabsorption rate. Okay, so I actually had to write this down. So you don't die from cancer, you don't die from disease, you don't die from chronic illness. So those of you who are anti-vaccine, the vaccines have caused your illnesses, no, you caused your illnesses. All of the ways in which you deal with your body caused your illnesses. You know, so the cancer, disease, the chronic illness, the aging, the autoimmunity, the missing limbs and organs tells you the malabsorption rate. When you're already diagnosed, you are now seeing an acceleration of a malabsorption rate. However, that's not the only way that you would die from malabsorption. It's also the accumulation too. Okay, tells you malabsorption rate and also the accumulation rate. I gotta put that down too. An imbalanced accumulation rate. Imbalanced accumulation rate, which is like fatty deposits, calcium, minerals, all these things that get caught up. It's called atherosclerosis, where that gets caught up in your blood and in your heart valves and all that stuff, and that's what stops the blood flow from your heart or other places to your brain, to different parts of your body. Okay, so people just don't die from the cancer. Okay, now cancer, disease, and chronic illness is like a red flag. It's your insurance policy to go and fix the issue. But if you keep ignoring those red flags, you have no idea, based upon your accumulation rate and your malabsorption rate, at what point where the body just gives out based upon what deposits that are still caught up into your heart, or how weak your heart and your blood flow is. So still, you know, being diagnosed or being told that you need to lose weight or this or that should tell you that you're not really too far from something happening, and so many factors will contribute to a sudden heart attack, which it happened. Well, the heart attack didn't really happen. It was an aneurysm, but it's still all connected. Okay, aneurysm is where you don't get enough blood flow to your brain, and that's based upon a sluggish cardiovascular system, because the blood has to go to every part of your body to give it oxygen and minerals and nutrients. All right, so anyway, so then I wanted to the end of life. If you're not actively feeding your body the necessary spark of life, which is electrolytes, all right, and nutrients, and repair the weaknesses, your malabsorption rate will increase over time. And you may trigger heart disease or other types of diseases that will create chain reaction of events, a chain reaction of a sudden cardiac arrest or stroke that you may or may not live through, based upon how much electrolyte you have in your body or blood, or how much fatty acid is built up in your arteries and veins. So maybe you should know how people die, so you understand how you can live. See, if you don't understand how people die and what they die from, then there's no way you're going to be aware and cognizant of how to actually live, literally live, not like live like superficial live, but live in our society. You got to know both sides, and then you can make a choice if you want to end up this way. Okay, so Crossroads, so this is the guide to understanding the end of life signs and symptoms. Okay, this is from crossroadshospice.com. So you understand that those of you that are so far away from that, you're thinking, you got to know what people are dealing with. Because I've never seen anyone die. People who are in the healthcare industry see it all the time. They're so immune to it, and they're so not oblivious, but they're so immune to it that it doesn't really resonate to them. They're like, well, I'll know how it goes, but but those of us that are not in the medical industry don't know how it goes, and this you should know. So Crossroads Hospice and Palliative Care created guidelines to help caregivers better understand the physical changes of the end of life process, as well as the emotional and spiritual end of life changes taking place. So the following describes the physical symptoms you may observe. Here are the end of life signs and helpful tips. So 1, coolness. Hands, arms, feet, and legs may be increasingly cool to the touch. The color of the skin may change and become mottled. How you can help? Okay, keep a person warm with comfortable soft blankets. Confusion. They may not know time or place and may not be able to identify people around them. Okay. Sleeping, an increased amount of time may be spent sleeping. The person may become uncommunicative, unresponsive, and difficult to arouse. Incontinence, they may lose control of their urinary bowel functions. This is a common change that occurs during end-of-life process. Restlessness, the person may make repetitive motions such as pulling at the bed linen or clothing. This is due in part to decrease in oxygen. Okay. Congestion, there may be gurgling sounds inside the chest. These may be loud. The end-of-life symptoms does not indicate the onset of severe pain. Urine decrease, Output may decrease and become tea-colored. Fluid and food decrease. Those of you who are vegans and vegetarians promoting that lifestyle, you're basically paving your way for something like this. Your loved ones may want little or no food or fluid. The body will naturally conserve energy required for the task ahead. Food is no longer needed. Whoa. Changes in breathing. The person may take shallow breaths with periods of no breathing for a few seconds to a minute. They may experience periods of rapid shallow panting. These patterns are common and indicate decrease in circulation. Okay, so what does this thing like fluid and food decrease? Your loved one may want little or no food or fluid. The body will naturally conserve energy required for the task ahead. So the body knows it's on its last legs, but it's going to want to do a last hurrah. It's going to need to conserve the energy to have that last heartbeat, that last spark of life needs energy. Okay? The body doesn't want to die, but it doesn't have anything left. And so they say, do not force them to eat or drink if they don't want to. It only makes them more uncomfortable, because it's like, what is uncomfortable? It's pain. The body's trying to survive. But when the body is systematically shutting down this way, these are the signs. Fever. Increase in temperature is common. And then somewhere I wrote on here, like in my Facebook, how it's like a mini heart attack. When the blood stops flowing, the blood pressure is either so low to where it's not able to have the energy to pump the blood to the necessary places, or it's so high that high blood pressure where there's like anomalies in the heart, and the fatty deposits and all of that stuff then get jammed up and clogged up into the areas, and then person just dies and they have a heart attack. So either way, you know, the spark of life will still happen, but if you have major debris in your veins and in your arteries, and you have a malabsorption rate that is extremely high, and you also have an accumulation rate that's extremely high, you're kind of screwed. And so that's why you got to understand balance. That's why the indicators, whether it's having a big belly or being diagnosed because you had an event that now you have to go and change your life and be discriminatory, or you're on different drugs and all of that stuff, that should tell you something. That it's not that far behind, and you roll the dice every single day, because you have no idea, even though you're a big dude and you have all these minerals in your bones and your whatever, you have no idea the condition of your heart, okay? Or the condition, of your heart and your brains and your blood and your cardiovascular system. And so all that stuff is your family history that you may not understand or know it. But I'm telling you, if you have aneurysms in your family, if you have heart attacks in your family, you obviously have cardiovascular issues in your family, okay? So that ought to just scare the shit out of most of you if you are aware. Hi, sugar, I see you. So anyway, so that's, why, that's why. Well, I don't say that's why, but it's better to know how you die and what are the things, because you see people are actively dying now, that they're out there being vegan and vegetarian, playing the activist game, completely starving themselves and their children and their babies, and they are so skinny and so malnourished, and they are paving the way for heart disease in their family, in their children. And so you got to know that we have a lot of people in our society that are actively dying. And you see the indicators that they are the activists buying into these damn propaganda campaigns done by people who have access to Facebook from different countries who have nefarious intentions wanting to destabilize the West. They know how much heart disease and how many diseases there are in America and the West. They know. And then you guys are giving away all of, you know, the weaknesses of our society to those that will go and capitalize and find ways to manipulate you and create these campaigns and create these stories about our government and about biotech. Okay? If we were all 100% well, we weren't reproducing, we weren't dying, we wouldn't need vaccines or biotech. We wouldn't have atrocities against animals, because, you know, animals can be used for food, but not as for experiments for cures, okay, or for other stuff. But animals, certain animals, yes, are used for food. Okay, it doesn't mean that you're a murderer, you're a horrible person. No, I mean, the caveman, you know, when you're in, like, you know, let's say like, I don't know, Alaska, and you're somewhere like, I don't know, the North Pole or something, and you don't have a place to really go and grow your food, you're relying on the polar bears or the whale meat or the fish to get by. That's your data pack. You think they can live on a freaking plant-based diet? No, they rely on meat. Okay, it's called the circle of life. So yeah, so just to kind of wrap this up, yeah, I'm very ashamed of my anti-government days, of my conspiracy days, because it means that I was subject to a propaganda from nefarious people that are against the West. And I fell for it, like a lot of people did. And it took the J juice to peel back the layers of programming that I created by reading all this crap on the internet, created by people who have nefarious intentions against the West, by saying and characterizing Freemasons as something satanic. Okay? You know, when the Freemasons created America, they wanted a place to have freedom, to have the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the balances of power. Yes, people can be corrupt, but those doctrines don't get corrupted. They can be interpreted, and that's where constitutional law comes in. They can be interpreted based upon the times of the day, but it can't get too far away from the blueprint. And that's why we have those that are in constitutional law will be able to interpret the Constitution based upon the current society of today. So, you know, I'm looking back on how I was 5 years ago, and wow. And so that's why there is no slamming of our government. There is no activism on my page or in my group. There is no demonizing anything, because as soon as you do the J juice and you get through and heal and seal, you're not going to be afraid of anything in the food supply. And you will realize that you live in the West, when you can walk to your freaking mailbox and go down the street in your car that's insured because you're financially responsible, you are luckier than those that have so much war and chaos, like in Liberia, or no centralized government. Okay, like those in Liberia. It took me to watch a YouTube video about Liberia for me to get it. I didn't have to go to Africa to figure out how lucky I am to be in the West. Just watching how that missionary went in for 30 years to try to help these Liberians being accused of sexual battery against a young girl who got pregnant. And then it turns out that that baby belonged to somebody that she knew, that it wasn't him, it wasn't that missionary, but that missionary went through hell because they didn't have a quick and speedy justice system, and they had a corrupt system. So if you are thinking that America and the West is so horrible, go live in a place like Liberia and then get accused of a crime. See how long you last. Okay, so we have to remember how fucking lucky we are to be in the West, to be in a place like your home where you can pay your taxes to make sure that you have infrastructure, that you have a government that works to keep you guys all safe. Because let me tell you, if you have no government and no law enforcement and complete anarchy and only cryptocurrency, you will have fucking chaos. And those that are so against the government and the and education and all of that, and yet they are traveling around with the freedom with no one can mess with them, and they're just pissed off at the real ID and all this other stuff. They're imbalanced. They're making money off of people who are also imbalanced, and I don't agree with it. And that's why I am the way I am around activists or anyone that's anti anything on my page or in my group. Because when you actually do the JJs and you do it on a consistent level, all that programming of fear and anti-anything will be peeled back. And now finally you'll understand how we have 7 billion people on this planet. Not because someone tried to kill you, it's because the fact that someone wanted you to live despite your deficiencies. Because let me tell you, high infant mortality rate means less people. When you have a low infant mortality rate, it means that somebody wanted you to live. But if somebody dies, it's because they were that weak that we couldn't do anything about it anyways. You've seen in litters, in dogs, you try to help the run to the litter, but sometimes, you know, there's one puppy that won't survive, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not the government trying to kill the puppy. You weren't trying to kill the puppy. It just happened the puppy was so weak, it didn't have enough necessary resources to keep it alive, and it wasn't competitive to go after that nipple. But we have people in our society that will say, oh, the government should have saved that puppy. Some things just can't be saved. Some people don't realize that the fact that you're here, despite all of your issues, is a testament to somebody really giving a crap and wanting you to live. If somebody dies in our society based, that's in the medical system, they were that freaking weak. The fact that we keep people alive that shouldn't really be alive because they're like complete, like, well, I'm gonna say shouldn't be, but I mean, when you have no quality of life and you're like, like Terry Schiavo, okay, or when you have that guy with ALS, he actually died. He died recently. He passed away. He's the one that did the ice water challenge on the head. Well, he passed away at 34 years old. Too bad someone in this world didn't recommend JJ's, but he would have been in pain, but he would have had feeling come back into all of his motor neurons. You know, pain is a genesis of life. People are so afraid of pain, then they end up like an ALS person where their brain is moving. They can feel, they can understand, they can't feel, but they can see, but they can't feel, and they can't move, they can't communicate. And he passed away recently. So the system didn't want him to die. They kept him alive for as long as they could. They kept him in a wheelchair with his stuff on and whatever. So the system doesn't want you to die. They will keep you alive for as long as they can until you're actually brain dead or your heart just gives out. So I don't want anybody talking smack against the medical system, Rockefeller medicine, the government, or vaccines, or anything. Because you forget where you came from. You forget that somebody saved your ass because you could have died, because if you were to be born or conceived in a place like Liberia, most likely most of you wouldn't be here. But people forget that. They take their shit for granted. They're so entitled and they take everything for granted. They forget where they came from. So now we have to understand what the death process is like for somebody at the end of their life, and then what you can do to then redirect, but not just redirect, now get to the root cause of why your body is systematically degrading. Because therapies redirect, but they compound the traumas on bodies that are already traumatized. Okay? And so that's why I try to stay away from therapy. I don't want therapists in my group being boisterous about their practice. Just do the JJs. You are no better or no worse than anybody else. And you just do the JJs. And you heal and you report about it if you want. And that's all I ask of anybody in my group or on my page, is you don't put out your politics and you don't put out all that crap, and you just act as if you were just like me, because you are. What are you dealing with? If you're comfortable enough with talking about your situation, then do it. If you're not, then just stay silent. Okay? And if I see somebody promoting any kind of remedy and they're part of my group and they're promoting it on their Facebook and it's coming through my news feed, most likely you'll be gone. Most likely you will be gone. Because when you know that your body's made up of fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, and all of biodiversity, all the pills, powder, supplements, and detoxes and food are made up of fatty acids, amino acids, prohormones, and minerals. Prohormones and minerals. then you realize you cannot be the one to go and try to mess with their biochemistry and give them remedies. John Coronado, good question. So why haven't the pharma world worked out that the JJ is the elixir of life? Because you have to feel pain, John. Do you realize that everybody out there in the medical holistic industry doesn't want to feel pain? Do you realize that every single therapy they're doing is trying to mitigate pain? Do you realize that the Hippocratic Oath says we do no harm, we will not induce pain if we can help it? That's the point, John Coronado. The industry is taking cues from the general population that wants to be fucking drugged out. They want to be anesthetized. They want to have organs taken out of their body. They want to have the therapies. They don't want to feel pain. They don't want to face the pain. They don't want to face anything that would hold them accountable for their choices in life. They don't want to feel pain. That's the difference between J-Juice and the pharma industry. They're trying to mitigate pain. We're inducing pain because pain is healing. Do you understand the difference? Do you get that? Do you realize the J-Juice is all about pain is healing? We're not trying to bring in remedies and pills and powders and supplements and detoxes to stop the pain. If you are in pain on the J-Juice and you're bitching at me, get the hell off of J-Juice and go back into the system and take all the drugs to stop the pain, to stop the healing. That has been my premise ever since the beginning, John. We are bringing up the healing hormones that induce pain. Not everybody wants to feel pain. Some people want to be drugged out. That's why Big Pharma won't adopt this, because that goes against the Hippocratic Oath. Though pain isn't doing harm, but people's perception of pain is something uncomfortable, and they haven't done anything long enough to then be able to heal to where no pain is happening. And so when you're taking these immunotherapies and these cures that may stop one symptom, then guess what? Another one pops up and it's worse than the last one. And then worse than the last one, until the person systematically degrades and decays in our society. That's why Big Pharma will never do this, because their market is not people who want to feel pain, John. But the J-Juicers understand that you got to feel pain to heal. That's why I've cornered the market. That's why Big Pharma will never adopt this, because it goes against their whole mission statement. So do now you get it, John? Pain is the genesis of life. Okay? Pain is the genesis of life. Pain is healing. Pain happens in reproduction. It happens at conception. It happens when a virgin first gets to virginized. It happens when you're bearing a baby. It happens in death. Okay? Because the last spark of life, when you have nothing else, will still be painful. The only way you're not going to feel pain is when you deaden the parts of your body, which is what the J-Juice wakes up. So that's why people are systematically degrading, because they've deadened parts of their body. When they take a cure or a pill or powder or supplement, they put to sleep that part of their body. But the body still wants to live, the human still wants to live, and so we'll find alternative pathways to keep it alive, the vital organs. But if that vital organ is put to sleep, the person is no more. But you can put to sleep your leg, you can put to sleep your, parts of your 11 different systems. You have so many components to your 11 different systems. You can put to sleep, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, parts of the body, and you can still live. Look at people who are paralyzed. Look at how much asleep those nerves are. But wait, they do the J-Juice, they start waking that shit up, and it's painful. But the whole thing with the no pain, no gain is people that are in the workout world will then simultaneously destroy their body, and the body's trying to heal. Destroy the body's trying to heal. So the whole no pain, no gain is also very huge in the workout world, but it's the wrong way to sculpt your body when the bodies are dealing with accumulation as far as imbalances, as well as malabsorption rates. So it's more about pain is the genesis of healing. Pain is the genesis of life. Once we stop reproducing, we can stop the pain. Once we stop dying, we can stop the pain. Okay? So that's the difference of J-Juice and Big Pharma. J-Juice is not a cure. Big Pharma is not keeping the cures from you. If anything, they're giving you all the freaking cures you want, but you can't handle them because you guys are so messed up. The body's still going to want to live, and the body is immune to all the concoctions, or it can't handle all the damn side effects because your body's already asleep. Okay? So that is the difference between J-Juice and Big Pharma. They want to mitigate pain. We're bringing it up. Okay? All right. Got me all excited, damn it. And so that's why there is nobody slamming Big Pharma, because everybody out there in the mainstream and the alternative mainstream doesn't understand that pain is the genesis of healing, and they're asking these corporations to make them a concoction to stop the pain. They're asking the cannabis industry to make them a concoction of cannabis that will basically put everything to sleep. And so when somebody asks you for a product, you don't think someone's going to then create their product to then take your money? When you actually stop asking for the cures and you start feeling pain, there won't be any need for Big Pharma. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, John. Okay. When you actually stop asking for the cures and asking for the pain medication and mitigation, all that stuff, Big Pharma would cease to exist. When we stop reproducing at the level that we are, when we stop reproducing and we stop dying, Big Pharma would not be around. They're around because people are reproducing and they're dying. And those two come from trauma, and pain is the genesis of healing because the body will continuously try to heal despite the abuse to it. And then you deaden parts of your body over the time of your life. Some of you are half dead, but you're still kicking. Some of you are zombies, but you're still kicking. And so J-Juice will wake up the parts of your body that are asleep, which is a complete antithesis of biotech. Okay? Okay. So, yeah. Looking at my wall of tiles that I have, just all my notes. I mean, I don't even know if you can see this. Those are all my notes on my wall. Those are everything I look at. Okay? So, those are all of my ideas. Those are all of the things I brought into play to make you guys understand crossing contextual boundaries. So that way it makes it easier to get and understand why people try to do the protocol and why they can't or why they don't do it right now and all that stuff. Okay, so done a lot of research and you guys are taking advantage of it. That's good. And just do it. Just do the protocol and report on it. Because I'm telling you, your report on the protocol, whatever situation you're dealing with, somebody else is going to derive benefit from it. Okay? So, anyways, I'm going to go do my thing. It's 7:30 and it's still dark outside. But just drink the, I had 2 cups last night. Didn't do any waterfalls. Pooped this morning, and you know, my body is going to derive benefit from all of the food that I eat. And then the J-Juice just goes and helps digest. If I don't do waterfalls, it'll help break down the food for then the body to go and repair any damage that I don't even know is damage. I don't feel any pain, but I noticed that lately I've been sleeping a bit more, which is good. My schedule has changed a bit. I'm not getting up at like at 4:30, but I am up at 4:30, but I'm going back to sleep. So I notice there's some changes going on. I don't know what it is, but I'm just going to go with it. Okay. So at some point when you fix all of your weaknesses, then it's at what point are you going to then trigger what you were originally intended? How is your body going to evolve past all the weaknesses being already reversed? What's next for the human body? What were we originally intended? I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see. All right. So anyways, you guys have a good one. I will talk at you later. My dog can sense the ending of my transmission. And just keep doing the J juice. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye. And thanks, John, for your question.